What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a different video for you guys, but one that I think you'll all enjoy, and that is us ranking the POIs on the new map E District from worst to best. This ranking is a mix of my personal opinion as well as what the community is generally saying. Now I've taken loads of factors into account for this, but mainly we're talking about the amount of loot, the general location, and also the number of people that usually land here. You may not 100% agree with the specific order of this list, but if you don't, then make sure to let me know in the comments and I'll be reading each and every one of them because I want to hear your guys' opinions on this. Now straight off the bat, I just want to say that I don't actually think there's any bad POIs. You know, most of the bad ones are just at the bottom simply because they're being overshadowed by better ones. But overall, I think Respawn have done a really good job with this map, and this is definitely my favorite map at the moment. But there has to be a loser, and right at the bottom, we have Viaduct. Now, Viaduct is an interesting POI, it's definitely different to the other ones. But overall, I mean, the loot is pretty poor, one of the worst on the map, definitely. In terms of action, you can maybe expect one team. I mean, the good thing about this is because it's so small, if you do get a team or two, you're more likely to run into them, but you're just not going to get a lot of action here. And it's right at the bottom of the map, meaning you'll have a long way to rotate. And overall, it's not actually a bad POI. I just think every other POI on the map is better somehow. Up next, we have Humbert Labs. Now, Humbert Labs questionably could actually be the worst, but the reason why it's above Viaduct is because when the drop is over this, you will get a lot more action. And as a POI itself, it is a lot more interesting. But if the drop isn't straight over, you're not going to get much action. The loot is very underwhelming. But I do like the design. I do like the rotating. Well, the buildings itself don't rotate, but the cover around it is a cool little feature that rotates. To be honest, it reminds me a lot of Grow Towers and a bit of Hydroponics, kind of like those two POIs mixed in from Olympus. After Humbert Labs, we have Shipyard Arcade. Now, this is the POI I'm the least sure about where to put it in the list. Some of you guys might have it higher than I do. When I first started the list, it was much higher than it is now. But the reason why I decided to relegate it to C tier is just because the loot is decent, but the main reason is it's just too big for the amount of people that land here. So you're in for a really slow start to the game, at least in my experience anyway. Unless you've got a drop straight over it, there's not really anybody that lands here. And if there's like even one or two teams that land here, because it's so big, you're gonna have trouble actually finding them unless they all land on the boat. This POI actually reminds me of the Mirage Artois or the Mirage Voyage that some of you might know from the map takeovers. And I do really like the arcade style design. If we're talking about aesthetics, this is going to be towards the top, but unfortunately we're not, so it's at the bottom. Up next, we have Boardwalk. Now, if we were doing a tier list on the prettiest POIs, Boardwalk would be towards the top because it is really beautiful. But that's not what we're here for. Boardwalk is, let's be honest, a B-Tech Blossom Drive. And when I say B tier, I could even say C tier because Blossom Drive is just so much better. It's bigger, has more loot, has better loot, has more buildings, more places to fight. Boardwalk is just a bare bones Blossom Drive, basically. It is still a really good POI, and if you want to look for some more quiet action, I do recommend this spot. But when you rank it and compare it to the other POIs, it's just not up to par. Lastly, in C tier, we have Draft Point. Now, if we were actually talking about the ranking of where I would land in a game, Draft Point would be higher, and that is mainly to do with the fact that its location. Its location is really good. And if you don't want to land in somewhere like Energy Bank, if you want to land at Draft Point, get a bit of loot, maybe 1 or 2 kills, and then move in, I recommend that. That's a good approach. But if we're isolating the POI in itself, apart from location, the loot is average. It's just a boring POI. Like, I talked about Boardwalk being beautiful and it'll be top of the list. Draft Point is right at the bottom. This is actually the ghetto of E District, I swear. Like, it hurts my eyes when I go in this place and it's just not good. If I was to actually land, it would be higher up in the list, but it wouldn't be A tier. It would maybe be like mid tier, top tier of B tier. Starting the B tier, we have Old Town. Now, Old Town, in terms of its loot, I was actually surprised. If you look at the loot map, it's actually got one of the best loots on the map, which is crazy. And that is one of the reasons why it is higher up than some of its other POIs. But the main reason why it's not as high as other POIs is to do with its location. You could not get further down the map than Old Town. It's somehow further down the map than Shipyard Arcade, which is literally at the bottom. Like, how does that make any sense? In terms of design, the narrow streets and the old-fashioned buildings do give it a nostalgic aesthetic. I'll give them that. And they have the zip lines between each corner of the POI, which is really cool to traverse. So overall, it's a decent POI, but the reason why it's not any higher is just because it's overshadowed by the rest. Up next, we have Electrodam. Electrodam is actually pretty decent. The reason why it's in B tier is just because of its location. But to be fair, you have two zip lines either side of the POI, basically taking you to Galleria, and you also have a gravity cannon. So the location isn't too much of a disadvantage. The loot is decent, but it's spread across multiple levels. But overall, it's just a solid POI. Coming in at number 10, we have Street Market. Street Market is actually very nicely designed in some aspects. I'm liking the dome and everything in the middle, and it's very symmetrical. I think this is probably the most symmetrical POI in all of Apex. I'm just going to put it out there. But I don't think there's a single door in this POI either, which means it's just all open. So if you're getting pushed, you better hope you're Octane or something, because you better run if you're not kitted up, because you're going to die. And that's basically why it's at number 10. Coming in at number 9 is Stadium. Now, I was debating for the longest time of which way to put Street Market and Stadium, but I've decided to have it this way. And the main reason in Stadium is just way better defensively. It actually has doors. I know, like, you can get third party from the rims because of the way Stadium is, and that's why it might not be as high as it could be. But with Street Market, you're getting third parties 100%. With Stadium, you know, if you're careful, if you're in the middle, you can weave in between and out of buildings. Like, you can do a lot more to avoid action if you don't want to at that time. With Street Market, you're basically doomed. As you've seen in the video, what could I have done there? I know as Octane, I probably should have ran away further, but that is literally Street Market in a nutshell. There's literally nothing to hide in. Once someone has their eyes set on you, it's locked in. You're doomed. Whereas with Stadium, you've got a lot more movement, a bit more verticality, and it's just a lot more fun, especially when you first land. You've got a lot more action straight off the get-go while still having some loot to actually fight with. Coming in at number 8, we have City Hall. I actually really like the design of this POI. It's something different. Some of them are just very bright lights and whatever, and that's cool. But in terms of actual design and structure, I think this is actually one of the best. It has an inconsistent loot spread, but occasionally you will get some really good tier loot from this. And the location's pretty central, to be honest. You can't ask for a better location. It's surrounding Boardwalk, Resort, Lotus, and of course, Energy Bank. The only thing is, because it's surrounded by so many good POIs, on the drop, you might not get as many people landing here. But for mid-game, once you've all looted up and everything, you'll get people coming from Resort and Boardwalk all rotating in, so you can come in and just ambush them. The buildings themselves are really cool. They've got tight corridors, making for intense close-quarter engagements. And just the way it's designed, you've got plenty of cover and you've got plenty opportunities for ambushes to hide. So if you're that type of player, which I am sometimes, I must admit, City Hall is pretty great. And then after you go from City Hall, you can rotate into Lotus or Energy Bank and basically wherever you want. Kicking off the A tier, we've got the very sussly named Galleria. Now, Galleria actually has some pretty solid loot, and you've got a bunch of loot spawns everywhere. And if you wanted to like loot here and then rotate into Energy Bank or wait for people to rotate from Electrodam or the Heights, this is actually a pretty good approach. If you're right at the top of the Galleria, then you're pretty exposed, but I'd say the POI really begins underground. The open air market mall style design of Galleria provides a lot of cover for looting and fighting. And the fact that it's also got multiple floors means that you can get into some pretty intense close quarter combat situations, which means if you're an aggressive player, this is quite a good spot for you, as it also has good movement flow between buildings. Now, you can make a case here, and I was debating this as well, but you can make a case to swap places with City Hall and Galleria be at the top of B tier. But in my experience, and this is kind of the deciding factor why I decided to put Galleria above, it's just I see a lot more people land at Galleria than City Hall. With Galleria, you're going to get maybe like, on a good day, like maybe like 3-4 teams on average. With City Hall, you'll get like 1, maybe 2 at a stretch. But, you know, if you've got a different experience with that, if you see more people at City Hall, then please let me know in the comments. And maybe I might have to jiggle this tier list around. But as I said, this is the rough positions. Next in A tier, we have Resort. Now, Resort could be the most... Actually, no. It's definitely top 3 most beautiful POIs in Apex Legends. Definitely on this map. If you haven't been here, actually go here. Like, when they create an Apex Legends VR, I hope they do, just so I can actually feel like I'm at this resort. It is absolutely stunning. The only thing is that it is literally in the top corner of the map, so it's pretty isolated. You have a jump tower, of course. You have some ways to get to the next POI and towards the center, but it's still not as good. To be fair, you will get a decent amount of people here. I found that you will actually get quite a lot more than City Hall for some reason, in my experience anyway. But the reason why it's here is just the loot is pretty good and you do get lots of action, and you have to have bonus points. For this POI, there has to be bonus points for how just pretty it is. It has to be. Congratulations, you've made it to the top 5 POIs of E District. And starting off at number 5, we have Heights. Now, first of all, the reason why Heights is above Resort is to do with the fact that it's got more defensive cover. With Resort, it's very open. And with Heights, as the name suggests, it has much better verticality and high ground. Loot-wise, pretty good. Nothing amazing, but it's not bad. It's pretty good loot. But the real strength is in positioning. The building in the middle is kind of the hub of Heights, and it's very much built for vertical legends like Horizon, Revenant, Valkyrie, them ones. You also have the vertical zipline system, which if you're a Wraith Sweat, which I'm sure some of you are who are watching this, you'll love this POI. And in terms of action, you should get a decent amount of teams that land here, especially if the drop is over there. Now, I was deciding whether to put Heights at number 5 or number 4, and the reason why I was deciding between the two is because the next one is very similar, and it's Blossom Drive. In my opinion, I think Blossom Drive looks better than Heights, but let me know in the comments what you think, because they do look very, very similar. But in a nutshell, the reason why Blossom Drive is above Heights is because I think the buildings in Blossom Drive are a lot more balanced. With Heights, if you get the main building, you kind of control that POI essentially, which is cool, obviously, if you control that building. But if you've landed there and another team has landed at that building, you have a long way to go, my friend. Also, once you come out of Blossom Drive, you can rotate straight into Neon Square. Once you come out of Heights, you've just got lots of open space, and it takes you a while to get to the next POI. So that's why Blossom Drive is at number 4 and Heights is at number 5. Here we are, guys. The tier you've all been waiting for. We've approached S tier. And starting off, we have Neon Square. Now, I'll be honest, I do not like this POI. I think it's just too cramped. And when you're trying to fight, I think there's just too many places for people to just camp and just hide behind a door once you make the one shot. But in terms of action, a lot of people land here and a lot of people like this place. So I'm willing to bet that you guys watching it will also agree with me when I say that this is at S tier. In terms of loot, it's got great loot and it has a lot of loot spawns available. Expect a lot of early game fights. So if you're looking to stack up kills, get a lot of damage, honestly, I'd say this could be the POI out of all of them to get early kills. If you like a lot of verticality, if you're also a Wraith vertical zipline sweat, like in Heights, you'll enjoy Neon Square a lot. And overall, it's just a very good POI. Even though I don't like it, I can appreciate the fact that it is definitely a top POI on this map. The only problem with this POI compared to others is because there are a lot of people and it's quite dense, you will be susceptible to a lot of third parties, so watch out for that. Now, let's be honest, everyone clicking this video already knew it was going to be between these two for top place anyway. I'm going to keep this one real quick. Coming in at number 2, is Energy Bank. Some people may put it at number 1, but I think as you've actually played the map a lot more, you'll realize that Energy Bank is number 2. And that's to do with the actual fact that the loot is actually kind of trash, especially considering how many people land here. The loot is not great. Like, there are actual like places in A tier that are just better loot than I would even argue B tier that have better loot than Energy Bank. And Energy Bank is just really there and really towards the top, mainly because it's kind of like the main POI. You're gonna get loads of action and you will get loads of kills, and obviously it's literally bang right in the center of the map. You couldn't ask for better positioning, which means that the best POI on the new map is the Lotus. Now, I could go on and on about how the Lotus is good. If I show you a quick picture of the Lotus is kind of the only POI that the whole POI is just high tier loot. The Lotus is basically the jack of all trades. You have amazing gear, you've got amazing like positioning and different types of fights. You've got the fountain in the middle as well if you want to like fight some low ground. The aesthetics, oh my gosh, this POI is actually beautiful, I swear. The only thing that this lacks, the only reason why you could make a case for Energy Bank, is the fact that Lotus is right at the top of the map. But with all the new movement mechanics introduced on this map, it's not the end of the world. You've got evac towers, you've got jump towers, you've got the gravity cannons, you've got everything. Lotus is number 1, ladies and gentlemen, which means there you have it. That wraps up our ranking of the POIs in E District. Remember though, the best POI depends on your playstyle and strategy. I've done my best to try and explain what playstyles work for which POIs. But if you did find this video helpful, then don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And please let me know in the comments what your favorite drop spots are and why. Also, let me know what you thought of the tier list and what kind of POIs you'd move around, if any. I've also got the tier list linked in the description if you guys want to make your own, and you can send it through on my Discord to see if others agree with you or not. If you haven't joined my Discord, then there will be a link in the description and in the pinned comment to join. And if you're tired of playing with clueless randoms and want some people to just chill and play Apex with, then this server is definitely for you, because that's literally the main reason why I set it up. I hope you have a nice rest of your day, but until next time, stay safe and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.